Hey everyone! Today's story honors and celebrates a very important person. This person's name is Martin Luther King Jr. He's not alive anymore. He used to be alive, but he isn't anymore. He got hurt by some really angry people, and the doctors were not able to help him stay alive. But his work and the messages that he spoke on stick with people to this day and will continue to influence, remind people, and energize people to continue working for racial equity. That means making sure everyone is being treated with compassion, that all things are just and kind, and that rules are being made in an equitable, fair way that ensures that the laws aren't helping just one person, but helping everyone. One group of people, but helping all groups of people. Okay, friends, let's get started. Grab your comfy pillow, and let's get started on story time. Now, I've read this book once before. I like to read my Martin Luther King books frequently in my classroom. And of course, since Martin Luther King Jr. Day is coming soon. That sounded weird. Is coming soon on our calendars. It happens every January. We celebrate his birthday. Martin Luther King Jr.'s pronouns are he, him, for anyone wondering. We celebrate his birthday every January 17th. And by doing this, a lot of people go out and protest, or they go and they read about him, or they might go out and help out their communities, or they will learn about him with their kids at museums, or they'll go to Washington, D.C. and read his monument. There's so many wonderful things that people can do to honor and celebrate Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Now, some friends might be saying, who is Martin Luther King Jr.? Well, you're in luck. We're going to find out. And if you do know who he is, you can help me read this book together. And maybe this can be how you start Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Or you just read it any other day, because this book is great. Okay, friends. The title of our book is called Martin Luther King Jr. Little Martin was a spiritual boy from Atlanta who came from a long line of preachers. His dad was a preacher, his uncle was a preacher, his grandfather was a preacher. Maybe he'd become a great preacher too. One day, a friend invited him over to play. Martin was shocked when he was asked to leave by his friend's adults because of the color of his skin, because he was black. That day, he realized something terrible was going on. This terrible thing was called segregation. It meant that public places like restaurants, movie theaters, subways, and buses had separate, different spaces for black, brown, and white people. Martin and his friends were sent to different schools because of the color of their skin. They both look really sad. They look like they don't want to be separated. Let's see what happens. Martin believed that one shouldn't remain silent or accept something if it's wrong. He promised himself that when he grew up, he'd fight injustice with the most powerful weapon of all: words. When Martin got older, he studied at universities in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts, where he read about Mahatma Gandhi, the man who had improved the lives of millions of Indians with peaceful methods of protest. When he finished his studies, Martin moved to Alabama and became the pastor of a church in a city called Montgomery. Every Sunday from his pulpit, he encouraged his congregation, the people who joined his church, to speak up about things that mattered. One evening, a woman named Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing, not doing it, to give up her seat to a white man on a bus. Martin asked the people in his community not to take the bus again until the rules changed. Rosa Parks was arrested. A lot of people were arrested because the law in Alabama, where they lived, was that if your skin was black or brown, this is what the law used to be. It's not this law anymore. It used to be that if your skin was dark, black, or brown, you had to give up your seat if you were sitting and give it to someone whose skin was white or lighter. And Rosa Parks was really tired. She did not want to get up. And she protested by staying in her seat. And she said, "No, I am not getting up. This law is not equitable. It is not compassionate to people who are black and brown. Everyone should be allowed to sit wherever they'd like, no matter what color their skin is." Let's see what happens next. Many citizens were inspired by Rosa Parks' story and Martin Luther King Jr.'s words. Suddenly, buses were almost empty. They stayed empty for more than a whole year until segregation on Montgomery's buses finally ended. So the people of Montgomery protested by refusing. They did not take the bus, no matter how far they had to walk to go to work, to the grocery store, to see their family and friends, to go to church. They did not take the bus. Even on rainy days, they walked because they said the law for the bus is not equitable. It is not compassionate. The law must change to treat everyone equally. And their protest changed that law. It was the first major civil rights action in America, but it was not the last. Martin Luther King encouraged people all over the country to stand up for their rights and join in with a peaceful protest. The protesters, they were often attacked, even though they were being peaceful. And Martin, he was arrested a lot of times by the police officers. He was arrested 29 times for just speaking up against rules that were not kind. But Martin Luther King and his followers never fought back. They were never violent. He knew that hate and violence cannot drive out hate and violence. Only kindness and love can. So no matter how frustrated, no matter how sad, no matter how hurt Martin Luther King Jr. and his protesters were, they did not use violence. Even if the people going against them, like the police officers, were violent, the protesters stayed peaceful. Martin helped to organize a protest march, that means people are walking, on Washington, where he gave a life-changing speech. It began with 4 simple yet powerful words. I have a dream. Look at all the unique, different people following and listening to Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech. These people are not separated. They're all together, showing that segregation is not the right choice. That living together, marching together, working together, listening together, being kind to each other, that's what's right. Let's see what happens next. The next year, Martin became the youngest person to win a Nobel Peace Prize. That's a really big prize that people all over the world get, but it's not given to everyone, only to people who work really, really hard to make sure that there's peace and kindness and compassion in the world. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words of hope, peace, and justice called a nation to change its laws and make them equal for everyone. And if you listen to your heart, you can still hear little Martin asking you to keep his dream alive. A dream of a world where we are judged by our character, who we are, and how we treat ourselves and other people, not by the color of our skin. There he is. And his poster says, I have a dream. And here we have some pictures of the real life Martin Luther King. Before we had illustrations, drawings, and these are pictures. Next time I read this book, I will have pictures in color so we can see what Martin Luther King looked like in color, too. Here he is when he's young. Here he is getting arrested for fighting, for standing up and speaking up for peace and kindness and compassion. Here he is doing his big speech in Washington. And here he is again. One of the last times he spoke publicly was right here. Okay. And here's all the other little people, big changes books. All right, friends, can you help me close our book? 1, 2. Lovely bugs, love bugs, lovely humans. Your voice is important. When you see something or someone not being treated with kindness, compassion, or if there's a rule that doesn't seem right, or you're not sure if it's taking care of everyone, or if it's treating someone differently in an unkind way, use your voice, use your artwork, use what you are able to use. Whether it's your body, you can say stop, no, let's change the rules, or using your voice, or creating something. Your voice matters. Your words and your thoughts matter. And the only way we are going to change the world, change our cities, change our neighborhoods, change our communities, and bring more compassion, more equity, and more kindness is by continuing to speak up when something is not right and something is not fair. I can't wait to hear what all of you do to honor and celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. this month. And every month, because we shouldn't only be celebrating and honoring civil rights and social justice one day out of the whole year. That's wild. But if this is just your start because you're a tiny human, that's okay. For the adults out there, I invite you to expand beyond Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday to learn more about civil rights activists from the past and in the present, and share these stories with your kids and with your friends and all the other adults out there. All right, kiddos, I will see you next time for our next story. See you later. Thank you for reading with me today. See you next time.